Hello, my dear students. So even today, we would be discussing a grammar topic, that is classification of verbs. Um, this is also a topic that has to do with verbs. Okay, so this is another classification of verbs, that is non-finite verbs, which you would find it in page number 57. You can see the topic as non-finite verbs. But before we do this topic, non-finite verbs, it is important that you need to know what are finite verbs. Without knowing finite verbs, you cannot understand non-finite verbs. So in this video, we would quickly learn what are what are finite verbs. So here, what is a finite verb? A finite verb is a verb that has a limited agreement with the subject, which means finite verbs are those verbs that goes into agreement with the subject. Now remember, when I say the word agreement, in our previous video lesson, we have done a topic with agreement of the subject and the verb. Yes or no? The verb has to agree with the subject in terms of number, in terms of person, and in terms of tense. So this topic is also an extension of the agreement of the subject and the verb. Okay, so you will not find, I hope that you will not find any difficulty understanding this topic. So the agreement of the subject and the verb goes, there are three parameters where the verb agrees with the subject. So like I mentioned, the first one, the agreement where the agreement of the verb and of the subject and the verb has three parameters. The first one is tense. Okay, it tells us the first one on the you can see on the left hand side, that is the tense. It tells us when the subject is performed. Okay, when the subject is performed, whether in the past tense, when in the present tense, or whether in the future tense. The second parameter here is number. So here the subject, it tells us whether the subject is singular or plural. If the subject is singular, then we'll have to use a singular verb. If it's a plural, then we have to use a plural verb. And the last parameters is your person. Person means if the subject is in the first person, second person, or third person. Depending on the subject, depending on the person of the subject, even the verb has to be used. So a finite verb will change as per the tense, number, or person. So if a verb change according to the tense, person, or number, then we can call it as finite verbs. Now let us understand each of these three parameters with the help of an example each. Now first example is example of verb that change as per tense. So when I say tense, you know what's the meaning of tense, right? Okay, here in the first example we have I play cricket every day. The second one, I played cricket yesterday. Now in this two sentence, we have the verb as play and played. In the first sentence, the sentence is in the present tense. Yes or no? I play cricket every day, which means it is showing us the present time. The action is performed in the present time. But in the second example, I played cricket yesterday. Here, we come to know that the action is performed in the past. Yes or no? I played cricket yesterday. So, both the verbs, that is play and played, they undergo change depending on the tense of the sentence, right? So the verbs play and played are finite verbs. Next example of verb that change as per person. Okay, so now as per person means this verb will change as per the subject, whether it is in first person, second person, or third person. For example, I run a mile daily. in the first example, we have the subject as I, which is in the first person. Yes or no? I is called the first person, right? So I, since it is in the first person, so even the verb I run a mile daily. But in the second example, he is in the third person. So if it's a third person, the verb will be he. See, now here he is in the third person, so he runs. Even the verb that we are using here is a singular one. He is in the third person plural. Sorry, he is in the third person singular, so even the verb is runs. So we can say run and runs undergo change depending on the person of the subject. So both the verbs are finite verbs. Now, example, a verb that change as per number. Here also, apple is of red color. Apples are of red are of different colors. Here also in the first example, we have the verb is because the subject we have is apple, that is only one apple. Yes or no? So apple is of red color. But in the second sentence, we are using the verb are because the subject we have is apples, which is plural. So this is how the verb undergo changes according to the number. So both the verbs is and are called finite verbs because they go in agreement with the subject. So hence, we are clear that finite verbs change as per tense, person, and number. I hope this topic is clear to you all. Okay, in our next video class, we would learn what are non-finite verbs.